super prime time. Air Marshal P.K. Barbora, former Vice Chief of Air Staff, is joining us live, along with Air Marshal P.S. Ahluwalia, former Chief of Western Command. Air Marshal Barbora, when you heard about the findings, and of course there is no official statement just as yet, when we are told that it was controlled flight into terrain, to the layperson the main question is and will remain, what went wrong?
Yeah. नहीं सुनाई दे रहा है कुछ भी.
All right, Air Marshal Barbora, I don't think can hear me just as. Sir, can you hear me? Air Marshal Barbora?
Now I can hear you. I can hear you now. Yeah, I can hear you now.
So my question to you was that the gist of what we were told is that it was controlled flight into terrain. But what does that mean to the layperson? What exactly went wrong, according to you, which led to the crash?
Okay. Firstly, I haven't read the report. I've only heard it from the media and from sources here and there, third, fourth party. So let me put, what is this controlled flight into terrain? It generally happens, obviously, when we say terrain, that means the aircraft, whether it's a helicopter, a transporter or a fighter aircraft, is flying close to the ground, and because of some unawareness, either because of he's doing a low flying sortie or because of clouds which are coming down or fog, etc., the pilot, in case inadvertently enters the cloud or something of that nature, that can lead to disorientation. It happens. It's very often happens. It happened also with transport aircraft, civil aircraft also. Now, when that happens, what happens is, inside both the ears, there is something known as semicircular canals, which keep you balanced when everything is in sight. But when you are either in a very dark night conditions or in clouds where you can't see sky, ground, stars or nothing, it can lead to your movement of the body and the head, which can lead to you feeling unbalanced totally. And if you're close to the ground, probability of hitting the ground is very much there. Now, I understand that in this case, the chopper definitely went into some clouds, as can be seen from the video that has been produced quite nicely, and it being close to the ground and in a terrain which has got hills on either side, it could have happened that they lose disorientation, and the time factor available because of the height the chopper was flying, or any aircraft flight close to the ground, it is very, very minimal to take any corrective action after you do come into contact with ground or you don't come into contact with ground. That is controlled fight into terrain.
Marshal Ahluwalia, okay, my follow-up question to that would be, these are all pilots who do this on a regular basis, from Sulur to Wellington, and the weather there has the tendency to pack up. They would have flown under similar flight conditions. They would have had SOPs about what to do when you see cloud cover. Then why didn't they just turn back?
I couldn't hear the last part of yours. Could you repeat that again?
So my question was when encountering sudden weather of this kind, isn't there already a set protocol about what you're supposed to do? For example, turn back or go around.
That is exactly the issue and what is referred to as aeronautical decision making. Now we have helicopters and other aeroplanes flying in the nastiest terrain in the world, up in the Himalayas, over the sea, and in little less mountains or hills like the Nilgiris. And what happens is that this is the big question. The decision to be made at that particular point in time, whether you carry on or you come back, maybe you go over, maybe you go below if there are clouds or the visibility is bad. Now, we all train for this day in and day out. We fly through this day in and day out. We learn when to come back and when to press on. However, aviation, like everybody knows, is a risky business. And it is on that particular day, with that particular set of pilots, that it has to happen. Now, this is exactly what you call controlled flight into terrain, which means that the pilots did not know that there is terrain there and they have gone into it. In this case, the pilots have taken off from Salur. They have hit Metapalayam, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Probably Barbara will be able to pronounce it better.
Yes.
And from there, the line goes to Kannur, the railway line, so you follow it, etc., etc. Now, after taking off from there, just in a few minutes, they have hit clouds, stratus clouds, that means drifting clouds, as well as poor visibility. They have called out, this is what I've heard, that they have called out in the cockpit voice recorder that this is the valley, and the valley is only about 500 meters from one side to the other, and they have seen the railway line, and they're going into this where they have encountered this kind of poor visibility stroke clouds, and due to some error, maybe it could also be the flight, the flight instruments, which might have given them a little bit of a wrong direction.
So here's the thing. So according to what we've heard so far, sir, Air Marshal Barbora, instrument failure is being ruled out. There is no apparent instrument failure. There is no distress signal. So what could have these are conditions that you've seen before. You have SOPs. So what could have possibly happened to suddenly disorient the pilot so much? We still don't have that answer.
I told you, Padmaja, for your audience also, that when you're in close proximity with ground and say there is a fog layer which is lifting, which will convert itself into stratus clouds and in patchy form, and there is movement of your head, more so your head, the semicircular canals which are inside your ears get disturbed, which makes you not believe the instruments at times. It is a fact. We have had many accidents all over the world. And when that happens and the proximity of ground is so close, I am sorry, you don't have time to recover. You just don't have time to recover, or it's too late to recover. So it is not necessarily that the instruments only can go, but you don't believe the instruments. If your semicircular canals have been disturbed, you won't believe it. And believe me, it's the greatest problem of disorientation. It can happen at altitudes, it can happen on a very dark night, it can happen when you're flying in adverse weather conditions in clouds. At night you get a feeling of as if you're inside an eggshell. You can't see anything. You don't know what is upside down or what is not upside down. It's a very dangerous situation, and close to ground, obviously, it is extremely dangerous. It can happen. It has happened to many professionals.
So in conclusion, I would want to ask you, Air Marshal Ahluwalia, something that will weigh on everyone's mind, even after all of these findings, and maybe if some niggles still persist, you would still be convinced that it would be silly to think of any conspiracy. That is definitely off the table.
Let there be no doubt on that aspect, because just to let you know that this was a VIP flight. A VIP flight has its own standard operating procedures. The aircraft is fully fit. The aircraft is competent to do the mission. The pilots are fully fit and qualified in terms of weather flying, just repeating weather flying, and otherwise both the pilots work together and they are fit also. The security for this kind of aircraft takes place maybe a day or two before, 48, 72 hours before, where they sanitize the whole aircraft and its approaches. So all that is being taken care of. Please, let's not get into a sabotage theory or anything like that, because it is not so.
Absolutely.
It will not happen, and it is purely simple, and it's happened many times. In fact, about 70% of the helicopter crashes throughout the world are because of what we call flying into terrain. And that's because of poor visibility, flying into bad visibility conditions, and losing your balance in the sense, not being able to discern whether you're flying left, right, up, down, and not knowing exactly where the hillocks are.
Well, let's hope, sir, that these reassuring words and the details that we have so far are going to set all those conspiracies to rest. However, unfortunate loss of 14 lives cannot be compensated in any way. Thank you very much, both gentlemen, for having joined us with your expertise. Our thoughts, as always, with the families of those we lost. Thanks for watching.